maybe marriage shouldn't be so transactional. Maybe you should be more focused on the family building aspect. But as long as that can still happen, so what? All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lech, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Let's party. So this one is very, very, very interesting to me, guys. You know that we talk a lot about red pill, manosphere, dating, modern dating, all that kind of stuff on this channel. But it's very interesting when we see the ideas that happen in that space kind of spread out and trickle out into the mainstream world. So you guys know I'm a huge fan of Tim Pool, but he is talking about this story. You can see the headline there. Let's let him tee up the story, and then we'll come back on the other side.
I saw this story about dating and a woman who's from the Philippines who married a man who is not that attractive by the internet standards. And I couldn't help but think there's an interesting double standard here as it pertains to men and women and dating. That is, quote, she thinks I'm cute. Man hits back at trolls who claim his attractive wife is only with him for the money. Well,
here we have the two, the couple in question.
Here's the image of the two. They say that she is too attractive and this guy is not attractive enough.
I mean, like, definitely not the most attractive dude, but certainly not the most attractive woman. And it's weird that this is the couple that I mean, you can see much bigger disparities in other couples, but I digress.
Okay, well, I think based on an objective standard of what we would call beauty in media and movies, the guy on the left is average looking, maybe on the slightly below average side, and the woman on the right is probably more attractive.
I would say they're both average. She's slightly above average.
The argument is they met in the Philippines, or they met online. She's from the Philippines. She gets married, and they're saying she's only with him for his green card. And that got me thinking. It got me thinking. So what?
Sounds like Tim is on board with the passport bros.
So what? So what if she is? She's allowed to be. Here's what I find fascinating. If a man is only with a woman for her looks, guys, for the most part, don't care.
Nope.
A guy might say something like, yeah, Jim's wife is smoking, but she's dumb as a box of rocks. But hey, she's smoking. Like, it's not a bad thing that a dude is with a woman who is incapable so long as she is physically attractive.
That's because men look at women primarily as beauty objects, whereas women look at men primarily for what they can do.
Now, there is some criticism if someone's got a dumb wife or something like that. But if a woman is attracted to a man who can provide for her, she's insulted for it. And that, I think, is actually really important. If we want people to be people, men to be men, women to be women, and we recognize that women are more likely to be attracted to charisma and money, status, and wealth. And I'm not saying those are bad things. I don't think it's negative that women may be attracted to those. I think that's perfectly fine for women to be attracted to. And men are attracted to appearance. That's all totally fine. I don't think it should be absolute. But why are we then insulting women because they're with a guy who can provide for them?
Because this is the only way that you can insult a woman on anything having to do with looks, because you switch it over to insulting the guy.
If anything, I'm like, this looks absolutely normal and perfect to me. Let me read you the story and we'll talk about it. Here's what they say. A couple have hit back at trolls who claim they can't be in love because the wife is much more attractive than her husband. Scott from Houston, Texas, and his wife, Divine, originally from the Philippines, have been together for more than 5 years. The relationship began from a mistaken message on Facebook in 2017 when Divine thought he was someone else. This sparked a long-distance relationship, which then turned into a marriage after Scott visited the Philippines for the first time in 2017 and later proposed to her. They continued their long-distance relationship for 4 years until Divine moved to the U.S. and the couple wed. And immediately, what do people say? Here's the story. She didn't mistakenly message the guy. She knew what she was doing. She was fishing for an American she could marry to get a green card and a better life. And my response is, so what?
Yeah.
So what?
So this is, that's why I found this interesting, because this typically you would find somebody of Tim's persuasion to say, like, you know, that you know, maybe marriage shouldn't be so transactional. Maybe you should be more focused on the family building aspect. But as long as that can still happen, so what?
And this guy, being slightly below average and having money, finally sees an attractive woman who's into him. So he goes to the Philippines, starts a relationship with her. They've been together for 5 years, and they get married.
5 years is not, nothing.
She gets a green card. She gets access to a better life. I would be willing to bet. People look at this and they say, she's a gold digger and she's just trying to get that green card. Those are the comments. And I'm like, how dare you? I'd actually be willing to bet she feels a tremendous sense of warmth and love within her heart for this man who gave her something better.
Now, I agree. That doesn't mean that leading with your wallet or your status is going to always turn out in the way that you want it. There's a huge caveat there. But there's nothing wrong with her appreciating his ability to provide her with a better life. Isn't that what all women are looking for out of men?
And who she needs. And that is, to her, she feels tremendous love for this man. I think of it this way. She's from the Philippines. And they're trying to argue that, like, it's not real and she's exploiting him. And I'm like, imagine you're homeless. I don't care if you're a man or a woman, and you're struggling. Let's say you're a dude and you lose your job and you run out of money and you smell like you're trying as hard as you can. You're staying with friends. And then eventually your friends tell you, bro, you can't stay here anymore. And then one day you meet a woman and she's like, let me give you a place to stay. I'll take care of you. I will help you get back on your feet. Would that man not love that woman for doing that for her? Would he not be like, you have saved my life. I'm eternally grateful to you? They say,
well, sure. In that situation, because the roles are reversed, I don't necessarily know that would be a great way to start a relationship for the man to be indebted like that. But certainly on the sheer aspect of the gratitude that a person can feel to another person, sure. When it's the man who has gratitude for the woman, it's more often that the woman is going to not be able to get over that because it is the man who is typically in the provider, protector position. And I'm not saying but there's plenty of women who make more money than their husbands and go down the list. I'm saying on a balance of probabilities. But what he is specifically talking about is that aspect of gratitude.
It started on TikTok. They started their TikTok together in 2021, but trolls refused to believe they could ever be together. The couple recently made a TikTok video responding to a comment which said, wow, he isn't cute at all. Come on, be real with us.
Why? Who says that? Like, come on, even if they are, like, how do you spend your day and think that this is a good use of your time? To come out, wow, he isn't cute at all. Come on, be real. Maybe he's not. Maybe, whatever. But let people live.
Divine, wearing black sunglasses, looks to her husband and says, babe, they say you're not cute. Scott then responds by saying, I guess it really doesn't matter. She thinks I'm cute, so.
Based. That's how you handle that.
Here's another photo. They say that this guy had scleroderma, which caused him to, what do they say? It morphed his appearance. But it's
so now we're dabbling into ableism. I thought that wasn't okay. But if it's towards a man, hey, no big deal.
It's not expected to get worse. So let's break it down. We look at her and we're like, wow, look how attractive she is. And she's from the Philippines. So if you live in the Philippines and your standard of living is lower, and an American guy who has wealth and money responds to a message from you and says, if you are there for me and you give me the love and the companionship I seek, I will, in turn for you, provide for you.
Don't do this if you are that desperate. But
isn't that what it's supposed to be?
It's what it's supposed to be. But when you put your cards on the table like that, it's a lot deeper than what Tim is saying. But my point is that this is getting out to, I wouldn't necessarily call Tim mainstream, but he's certainly way more mainstream than like a Fresh and Fit or anything, like O'Shea Duke Jackson or anything like that. And so you see that this messaging, this ideology, this way of thinking is spreading beyond these little pockets of the internet. And people who are just looking at the world and telling you what they see tend to agree.
Now, the question is, will she leave him? And that would suck.
Probably.
Maybe eventually she finds someone who's better, but I don't know. I'm not going to immediately assume that's the case. I see a story like this. There's this old documentary called The Science of Sex. It was a show on HBO, I think. And they did this thing where they took, he is not cute. The wallet and green card must be cute. They did this thing where they took 100 pictures of men and they had women rate the men on a computer. on a scale of 1 to 10. They then averaged out all the scores. Sure enough, it's what you expect. The guy who was a 9 was tall, chiseled, strong jaw, kind of fit. They said he was a 9 out of 10. No one ever got 10 because 10's a perfect score, so it was like 9.37 or something like that.
Of course.
And then they got another guy. He was short, he was pudgy, he was balding, and he got a 4 out of 10. Poor guy. Well, they then went to the streets and they asked average women. They said, how would you rate this guy on a scale of 1 to 10? And sure enough, the guy who was on average rated a 9 was rated on average around a 9. And the guy who was a 4 was rated on average around a 4. But why would they see anything different?
But wait, there's more.
They literally did this in the lab already, with women coming in and answering questions on a computer. In the real world, women stated the same thing. Then they did something really, really interesting. They added a bio, a status of the individuals on the piece of paper they were showing women.
Something similar to maybe you might see on a dating app.
And then things changed. The man who was rated a 9, they said was a theater manager, a cinema manager, who made $35,000 a year. All of a sudden, they said he was a 7. The guy who was a 4, they said he was a software engineer who made $500,000 a year, and he went from 4 to 6. I'm not mad about that at all.
Me neither. Me neither. It is okay. It is okay to understand that relationship dynamics are not as pretty and fun as they make it seem in Disney movies and rom-coms. Being in a relationship is and always will be, at some level, transactional. How much transaction in your personal relationship is up to you. Now, is this couple going to make it? I don't know. I don't really care. I don't know. The point is, the idea that men provide for women and women act as beauty objects for men at the base, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But you know, it comes from these fresh and fit types. And the way that they say it makes it so easy for the average woman to say, oh, that's toxic masculinity. That's not helpful. But what is good is that, again, this message is spreading. So I don't know. Do you guys agree? Is it a big deal that someone like Tim is talking about this? I mean, I know Fresh and Fit have specifically been on Tim's show, but he definitely didn't like them. And he definitely doesn't talk about this stuff a lot. So let me know what you're thinking. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Once again, this is Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, a.k.a. the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Check us out every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Until then, guys, we are out of here. Peace.